Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Vani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Wednesday, December 18th. Hurry up and wait. The Fed's latest is due out today. Yesterday, stocks retreated as investors anticipate more on the economic front and sift through earnings. During regular trading, all three major indices closed in the red. The Dow tumbled 267 points or 0.61%. That's 9 losing sessions in a row for those who are counting. The S&P 500 shed 23 points or 0.39%. The Nasdaq lost 64 points or 0.32%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up 0.28%. That's almost 0.3%. And there's multiple catalysts, causing, this with the markets today that we all know about the FOMC meeting. That's today. We're going to get that decision on monetary policy. We kind of know what it's going to be. They're going to reduce interest rates by 25 basis points. That's what the market is expecting, and they've really alluded to that in the recent Fed speaking. But we also get a dot plot. We get the updated dot plot. Remember, the September dot plot said we could expect 1 percentage point of rate cuts in 2025. This new dot plot is going to show 50, maybe 0.75, half a percent or 3/4 of a percentage point of rate cuts in 2025. But they're going to talk about how they're going to be slower, and there's going to be more time in between rate cuts. They're not going to be doing it meeting after meeting like they did when they were raising rates, and like they did, last 3 meetings as they've lowered them. So, assuming that we get a lower rate cut today, that would make 3 in a row. But that dot plot could really be a source of volatility. We got to be watching it. The other source of volatility is going to be Powell's press conference, because the market always seems to move when he starts to speak. And I got to tell you, it's about his tone, and his tone is likely going to be a little hawkish because he doesn't have a lot of dovish things to talk about. Yeah, inflation, the underlying, if you look at the inflation, it's okay. But with the incoming Trump administration, talks on tariffs, talks on immigration, it talks of tax cuts. These are inflationary issues, and they got to watch out for that. So their idea of saying we got to take a pause makes a lot of sense, and it depends on how hawkish Powell is when he starts to speak this afternoon during his press conference. We've got to keep watching that. We've got to key on that. Earnings reports after the bell. We got Micron, we got Lanier, we got Miller Knoll and Steelcase all reporting after the bell today. Honda and Nissan are said to be exploring a merger. That's causing auto stocks to rally. Remember, Renault, and the French car manufacturer Renault, they own like 25% of Nissan. Post Holdings. Oh, this was an interesting one. Post Holdings announced a deal last night for Potato Products of Idaho. I've never heard of this company, but that doesn't mean. But the point here is Post Holdings buying a potato company makes a deal for Lamb Weston, which was all the scuttlebutt and all the market chatter last week. It's unlikely. You look at Lamb Weston's trading off a little bit, probably has further to fall. But Lamb Weston, seeing weakness because Post is deal talks are probably off the table. Then I see Mastercard came out with a big $1 billion buyback, $12 billion buyback late last night, so that's helping the stock trade a little higher this morning. And then we take a look at what's happening overseas, and we're looking over at the DAX. The DAX is up 51 points or 0.26%. We're looking at the FTSE up 7 points or 0.09%. The CAC is up 13 points or about 0.2%. Auto stocks, moving higher. You got that takeover merger talks between Honda and Nissan. Remember, industries typically consolidate in waves. So, is this going to be the start of a wave of consolidation of auto manufacturers? I don't know, but we're seeing some talks between Honda and Nissan. Something could be happening there. And London, the UK inflation met forecasts, which is good. But they got a Bank of England monetary policy announcement that's scheduled for tomorrow. They're not expected to make any rate changes at that central bank interest rate meeting, but it is going to be worthwhile to pay attention to tomorrow. And then we got to keep an eye on oil because oil is a key factor in the markets these days, and oil is trading higher. Was up half percent. Now it's up over 1%. You got WTI at $70.82 a barrel. You got Brent at $73.79 a barrel. You got the API stockpile estimates that came in last night. They showed a draw of 4.7 million barrels. That's bullish for oil prices. But the key factor is that the UK and the EU have hit Russian oil tankers with sanctions. These tankers don't have the right insurance. They're older fleets. They're not really seaworthy, but they're transporting oil, and so the UK and the EU have hit them with sanctions, and that could curtail some of the flow of Russian oil and prevent them from getting more than $60 a barrel for their oil. So that's a key reason why we're seeing some gains in oil prices this morning. And later today we get the official oil stockpile results from last week that we'll be paying attention to. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update, Emily.
Bill, you started off by saying that there are multiple catalysts moving the markets today, and we heard a bunch of it there. That overview of the FOMC meeting, the announcement on monetary policy due out today, comments from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, and of course, as you mentioned, to look at that dot plot to get a tone of what the Fed may be doing. You also mentioned corporate news, mergers, buyback news, and we're going to dive into the details throughout the show. But first, we're going to turn to earnings. You mentioned a few big name companies there, Bill, so let's start there. Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings action?
Listen, you got to talk about what's happened this morning. I mean, you had General Mills, ticker GIS, Grace India Sam. They released this morning. Stocks trading lower by 4.97%, about 5%. They beat by 18 cents on higher revenue, but the guidance was not good. J-Bill, ticker JBL, John Boy Larry. Stocks up 9.2% this morning. They beat by 12 cents on higher revenue. And Birkenstock Holdings, that's ticker BIRK, Boy India, Richard Kilo. That stock's up 4.69% this morning. It was up over 5%. Listen, they beat by 2 cents. They did it on higher revenues. A good report. The stock's showing gains because of it. Now, upcoming after the bell today, we got Micron Technologies. That's ticker MU, Michael Uncle. EPS is $1.75. Expected move is 12.8%. This is a hard one because if you remember, Micron was my pick of the day last week when it was at 98. And now you look at Micron today, it's trading 110. It's moved $12 in less than a week. So it's hard to think that it's going to be seeing impressive gains today, but never count Micron out. There's always there's always a good possibility for additional gains in stock like that. Everybody seems to enjoy that stock. Also after the bell, we got Lanier, ticker LEN, Larry Edward Nancy. EPS is $4.18. Expected move is 6.27%. And then tomorrow morning, we got Darden Restaurants. That's ticker DRI, David Richard India. Stock's up about 0.8% this morning. EPS is $2.06. Expected move is 5.14%. But the put call ratio yesterday was 4.26. That's highly, highly negative. Shows a lot of caution for Darden Restaurants going into earnings, and their earnings are going to be released tomorrow morning. So that's what I have for you in terms of earnings update, Emily.
Bill, you mentioned Micron. Again, you had your eyes on that stock last week as a pick of the day, longer term play there. And speaking of pick of the day, your one yesterday was Birkenstock Holdings. We hear it is up this morning, and by the end of the show, we will do a full recap on that. So stay with us through the end of the show. Now we're going to get to the day's economic events. This is really where the headlines are. So Bill, give us a full look at what we should be watching when it comes to economic events today.
Okay, sure. Let's talk about it. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, we got the housing starts and building permits. At 10:30 a.m., we get the EIA oil stocks files report. At 2 p.m., we get the FOMC monetary policy announcement. At 2:30, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell starts his press conference. Estimates signal that the Fed is looking to do cuts of 50 basis points to 75 basis points in 2025. That's next year. The rates are going to be slower. They're going to be influenced by a number of different factors that they can't factor in just yet because they haven't happened yet. I mean, you got a new White House administration. They're going to have new policies. So they're driving without making predictions of what they're going to do is driving without a roadmap. They can't do it without knowing what the policies of the government are going to be. But I do expect Powell to be kind of hawkish in his press conference, and when Powell starts to be hawkish, markets can weaken. So I'll be trading cautious around the Fed's chairman's press conference this afternoon, Emily.
And Bill, as you mentioned, the Fed is trying to make these moves without having a full prediction on what is going to happen next in 2025. Like you said, where is the roadmap there? It's hard to do something without a roadmap, but you're able to make predictions in the markets day in and day out because you do have a roadmap. And that roadmap is your NewsWare and breaking it down into alerts. And we heard in your opening these number of catalysts, including the earnings action you mentioned, including these economic events on the day. But we also heard snippets of other types of information and merger news, buyback news. You're also looking at things like guidance news, shareholders meetings, all using your NewsWare. You also look at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see as possibly moving the markets today?
Well, I'm just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 22 higher, 8 lower. That's very positive. Yesterday was the reverse, but today we're showing positive action. And then I'm looking at my FANG stocks, a little weakness in Apple, down marginally, but Tesla's really taking on the chin, down about 2%, but everything else is higher. So that's good to see. And then we're kind of looking at, looking at some of the, news behind the tape this morning for some of the reasons why. And what do we see? It's like Amazon. Amazon's interesting to me because the stock is up, about 0.7%. But man, they are getting hit with strikes at multiple facilities across the U.S. Here in New York at the Staten Island location, Illinois and the Skokie location, and then in Southern California, more and more of these facilities, Amazon facilities, are going on strike right before the Christmas holiday season, which is never good. Especially when you don't get your packages on time. So, but the Teamsters are doing that because they want to press Amazon to negotiate ahead. So they negotiate because they know Christmas is a key season. What else do we see? Netflix. Netflix was fined $4.8 million by a Dutch watchdog over its data handling disclosures. Then we're looking at Dow Jones 30 stocks. Disney, showing pre-market gains. It was named the top pick at Morgan Stanley and the top media pick at Morgan Stanley. I do like Disney. I mean, Disney's a quality name. Remember, they got all these new ships coming into play. The cruise ships are coming into play. Theme park revenue should recover this coming year. They got Moana 2 out, which is really doing gangbusters for them. So yeah, I do like Disney. Ticker NVDA. Stocks up 2.79% this morning. It was up. They announced Tuesday that they were introducing a 249 version of its Jetson computer for AI applications, which is down from $500. So that's positive for NVIDIA. We got Nike, ticker NKE, trading higher. Earnings are coming out on Thursdays. So yeah, we got some good Dow story stocks. In terms of merger news, HMC, Honda Motor Corp. Nissan and Honda are apparently having discussions about a merger. This is still chatter. Nothing is finite. Renault owns a big percentage of it, but 25% of Renault. But we'll have to see if the deal is going to happen or not. Post Holdings, as I said, they struck a deal to buy a potato manufacturer of frozen potatoes, basically saying that they're not going to be buying Lamb Weston LW. So a Lamb Weston little rally may be over. In terms of guidance news, we're gonna start off with General Mills. General Mills came out and they did not show good guidance at all. They actually said that they lowered their 2025 adjusted EPS view to down 1% to down 3%. So not good. J-Bill, on the other hand, they see Q2 EPS coming in $1.60 to $2, and the street estimates is $1.88. So that's positive. We like JBL. In terms of shareholders meetings going on, AutoZone's having a shareholders meeting today at 9 a.m. That's worthwhile. And Salesforce.com, ticker CRM, Charlie Richard Mary, their CEO is gonna be interviewed today, I believe at 10 a.m. On a news station. It might be worth tuning into. In terms of buyback news, Fulton Financial, that's ticker FULT, they announced a $125 million stock repurchasing plan, and Mastercard, ticker MA, Michael Apple, announced a $12 billion stock buyback plan. That's big. And that's what I have for you in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, tough day to be making a pick. A lot of volatility around this FOMC announcement, but maybe you can take advantage of some volatility here. What's your pick of the day today?
Yes, I'm going with the Accenture, ticker ACN, Apple Charlie Nancy. Earnings are out tomorrow morning. EPS is $3.38. Expected move is 5.92%. Looking at yesterday's call volume, very positive. 2,282 calls versus 1,002 puts. It's 2-1. Open interest 46,354 to 38,966. Again, positive. Major brokers have been raising price targets. I do like to see that. That's one of the things that you look for. But you're right. Today's like a really cautious day because you got Powell's press conference that could sink all boats. If he's too hawkish. But pre-market, if you want to get in, I would want to get in the pre-market. I'd say 355 to 355 and a half. After Powell's press conference, it may move a little lower, so it could fall down to, under 350, under 355, but so that 355 is kind of like a key area for me is where I'd like to be long the stock. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see as the market opens, how this stock moves. But that is my pick of the day. Accenture, ticker ACN, Apple Charlie Nancy Emily.
Accenture on an earnings play today. And again, around that caution in the air with FOMC announcement. But coming up, we will see how yesterday's earnings play did, as we mentioned it earlier in the show. So stick with us. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Let's talk Cisco, the food company, SYY. That's ticker SYY. Sam, yellow. They announced a partnership with Square. Interesting. CHPT, ChargePoint, and General Motors collaborate to install ultra-fast charging ports. Viking Therapeutics, VKTX, weakness tied to Merck's deal for GLP-1 receptor. They did a deal with China, with a firm in China. Merck did, but you look at Merck shares, it's up 0.75% this morning. Palantir awarded a $400 million follow-up contract by the Army. Okay. Argentina, the president down there is talking, says his relations with China are excellent. China's president is going to be visiting. There's a lot. It's a real success story, what's going on down there. This Argentinian president, he went in there and he really just slashed everything to balance the budget and stop running deficits. The market's really been taken off ever since that has really started. Sure, it had some weakness in the beginning, but it recovered. But Argentina is really in a golden mode right now. U.S. is weighing bans on a bunch of routers made by China and American homes. That shouldn't surprise anyone. What else do we see? Novo Nordisk, ticker NVO. EU regulators are reviewing 2 studies that link their Ozempic weight loss drug to a rare eye condition. CRVS, Charlie Richard Victor Sam. Stocks trading higher by 17.5% ahead of today's phase 1 clinical trial release. A phase 1 release? That's not going to hold. ARM Holdings, Apple, Qualcomm, attorneys for these guys, and a former Apple executive yesterday about a key question for the future of the chip industry, which owns intellectual property built on top of ARM's computing architecture. Lilly got approval for an Alzheimer's drug. license in China. Lily's trading slightly higher on the news. Boeing said late on Tuesday that it'll resume production on all airplane programs that were halted by the machinist strike. That's good. You see shares of Boeing up 0.75% this morning. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off here, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Birkenstock Holdings. As we pointed out earlier in the show, you did give us that preview of the stock during your earnings report. The company reported a Q4 EPS of 29 cents. That was 2 cents better than the analyst estimates of 27 cents. Revenue for the quarter came in at $456 million versus the consensus of $438.95 million. In terms of looking ahead, Birkenstock sees improvement in profitability in 2025. Birkenstock sees a full year 2025 revenue growing 15% to 17% organically. They guided their adjusted EBITDA margin from 30.8% to 31.3%. The estimate there had been 31%. As you told us, the stock is up this morning. So, Bill, how did your call work out?
It worked out fabulous. I mean, look at the numbers. The stock opened up at $55.80 and fell. It actually fell all the way down to $54.55. And it closed out but it closed out higher than the open. It closed out at 56.06. And then in the aftermarket, it hit 57. And then you look at the stock this morning, it's trading $60.50. So yeah, that's a 7.92% move. I made my 1% yesterday and I walked away, but Birkenstock today, hold it into earnings, was really the play. I just didn't like the fact that he used the word long term in his press release last quarter, so I didn't want to hold it into it. But Birkenstock Holdings, big winner, big mover. Very happy, Emily.
Happy to take more than 7% any day. You still got that 1%. You did mention that on the show yesterday. You weren't sure about holding it to earnings, but a 1% ahead of earnings, more than 1% after earnings. So certainly a win. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Accenture pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Bonney, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.